the way, Haas, Cenk alluded to the fact that you were in the UK not that long ago. And I want to show everyone what you were talking about when you were in the UK not too long ago. Let's take a look at that.
Anti-Semitism is a canary in the coal mine of fascism. It's one of the oldest bigotries that has caused those of the Jewish faith a tremendous amount of pain. From pogroms to the Holocaust, Jews have always been singled out by those in power as a scapegoat for instability and economic volatility people in power cause. A resilient, nascent anti-Semitism is a constant threat, especially as economic instability makes those in power seek out old targets. They're not very creative, usually. They just always rehash the same propaganda over and over again. This is precisely the reason why I am terrified of the conflation of anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. The conflation is dangerous. Valid criticisms against the state, especially as all of the violence is unfolding, and everyone can see it. Valid criticisms against the state committing these atrocities and tying it back to Judaism is a cynical ploy to stop all matter of conversation is truly terrifying. And I think it directly causes anti-Semitism to fester.
And look, I agree with everything you said there, and I don't see the Zionist project as a project that seeks to protect the Jewish population. In fact, they couldn't care less about anti-Zionist Jews, and the treatment of anti-Zionist Jews makes that abundantly clear to me. I mean, look at the way they talk about people like Dave Smith, Glenn Greenwald, and others, and it's amazing to me that the people who are getting punished right now are those who have a problem with mass slaughter campaigns and land theft. It's insane. That's not really a question. I just wanted to make that statement.
No, yeah, but I'm curious for Hans to finish his thought.
Yeah.
So now that the audience has seen, of course you didn't say anything anti-Semitic. In fact, you said the exact opposite. Literally the exact opposite, right? So, but how does this movie end? Because now our governments say, we don't care what you think. It doesn't matter. We're just gonna oppress you on behalf of Israel.
Yeah, I don't know. There's only two options out of this, obviously. It's either de-escalation on behalf of the British government, on behalf of the American government. And we have seen some de-escalation on other issues from the American government, like in Minneapolis, where there was far too much public pressure through these people-backed campaigns of people going out and protesting against ICE activity. It was an occupation by the Trump administration, and there was some success there. So even the most powerful country on earth, the United States of America, was able to cave and capitulate to the demands by the public when it got far too heated, I guess. And of course, they ended up assassinating 2 American citizens in broad daylight in the process. I guess a similar thing could take place in the UK with this issue as long as the protests continue, because like I said, at the end of the day, they have to make a decision. Are they going to allow fascism to manifest, or are they going to maintain the pretense that democracy and the democratic process still works? Because it's gotten to a degree where the overwhelming majorities of masses in almost all of the Western countries have realized what's going on, and they can't really arrest every single person, right? So they might have the moneyed interest, they might have a pervasive, sophisticated influence peddling operation that they've utilized for decades. But we have the people, and the people are not. They're not giving in. As a matter of fact, this kind of additional state repression only angers the people further, and it actually causes people who were maybe on the sidelines, who might have seen the violence but never really thought about it all that much because it's just happening over there. Or maybe you're afraid of Muslims and think they might have deserved this kind of violence or whatever, to now second guess, to now actually become participants, because what people don't appreciate is being bullied. What people don't like is cancel culture. And Israel loves bullying people. Israel's envoys, Israel's most prominent defenders are some of the most annoying people you've ever encountered. So when they go on television and demand with maximum arrogance, with maximum hubris, unconditional support, and then they turn around and say, if you say no to that unconditional support, you're an enemy and you need to be deplatformed. You need to lose your job. You can't live in polite society anymore. You can't exist as a normal person. Well, then that causes a lot of people to get frustrated at Israel even more than they previously would have. I've even brought this example up with the UAE. There is no United Arab Emirates lobby in the United States of America. Sure, they directly, give money as little Israel to Donald Trump and whatnot. But ultimately, there isn't this like sophisticated media machine working at the behest of the United Arab Emirates that says like, oh, if you ever bring up Sudan, you're actually an Islamophobe, and therefore you need to be punished. You need to lose your job. But if that was the case, I think that a lot more Americans would be paying attention to what the United Arab Emirates is doing. And I think the Zionist lobby is suffering from its own success. For years and years, they went uncontested. It was unconditional. There was bipartisan support for Israel, and anyone that ever questioned that would be called an anti-Semite. And there was a lot of weight to that criticism. There was a lot of weight to that accusation. Now that's gone. And the reason why that's gone is because everyone understands that Israel is committing a genocide. And that genocide has caused people to look back at Israel's history, Israel's development, and Zionism as an ideology. And it's caused people to understand that perhaps they totally misunderstood the history of Israel for the longest time. And the toothpaste is out of the tube. So either governments that are controlled and have some sense of responsibility to the masses will turn around and say, all right, enough is enough. We have to cut ties with Israel. We have to restrain Israel. This coalition that we've designed can't continue. Or they're going to become just like Israel, as I said. They're going to turn into fascist countries.
I'm worried. I mean, things look very bleak. And you pointed to the event that took place in New York City over the weekend, and I want to kind of flesh that out a little bit for the audience in case they missed that story, because Israel's far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich was seen in New York City alongside Democrats. This is for the Israel Day parade over the weekend. Now, Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City, he was facing all this backlash because he's the first mayor in 61 years who refused to attend the Israel Day parade. And I'm glad that he did refuse, considering the fact that there was a literal war criminal there. So let's take a look at this J Street post on X. They write, Bezalel Smotrich should be sanctioned by American political and Jewish communal leaders, not marching alongside them in the streets of New York City. Smotrich is the architect of the Israeli government's policies to ultimately annex the West Bank, said that it may be just and moral to starve 2 million Gaza residents, but no one in the world would let us. He is a supporter of Greater Israel. We all know what that is. Believes Palestinians aren't even real people or a people, and is someone who has played a huge role in annexing parts of the West Bank, forcing people, Palestinians namely, out of their homes. The International Criminal Court even has a warrant out for his arrest. Take a look at this headline: exclusive ICC prosecutor's office seeks arrest warrant for Israel Smotrich. He's marching alongside Chuck Schumer and a whole host of other Democrats at this parade over the same weekend that you and Cenk get banned from the UK because you speak out against these atrocities.
It's a flex. There's no other way to read it than it's a flex. They're flexing on us. They get to have tremendous power and tremendous influence over what Western countries do and can't do. And this is a product of that. There's no other way to read it as anything but a direct threat to what the American government or what the American public has to say. That's what I think is going on. It's about sending a message. That's why Bezalel Smotrich is there. And you brought up J Street, and I find that really funny because liberal Zionism is inherently contradictory. This is one of the things that people get very mad at me about, because I say liberal Zionism is like saying you're a liberal Nazi, because Zionism is racism, Zionism is Nazism.
I agree with you, yeah.
And a lot of people get very frustrated with this. And as a matter of fact, J Street's president has gotten very frustrated with this. He's had conversations about the sentiment with the Pod Johns over at Pod Save America. And This is a direct demonstration of that inherent contradiction, because there were a lot of statements that came in the aftermath of the news articles that came out about Bezalel Smotrich being at the Israel parade, and some people were trying to say, oh, he snuck in, or some people were claiming that like no one knew he was going to be there, and it's like, it's the Israel parade. If you go to the Klan march, you're gonna have the Grand Wizard of the KKK at the Klan march. You can't turn around and be shocked and act all surprised that a member of the Israeli cabinet, the finance minister of the nation state that you're choosing to celebrate, appear at the actual celebration. Of course he's going to be there, right? So I think all of the ass covering that Kathy Hochul and even Alex Boris, which is very disappointing that he attended that as well. He's too young. He knows better, and his father knows better too. But all these people that are like, oh, I can't believe that the Nazi was at the Nazi parade, are just trying to engage in this same liberal cognitive dissonance. The idea that liberal Zionism is in some ways different than the ultra Zionism demonstrated by Bezalel Smotrich. It's not. He's a part of the Israeli government. He is perhaps the purest expression of the Israeli state's violence against Palestinians. It's racism that it harbors against non-Jews and Jewish supremacy. Of course, he's going to be there. He was elected. And he has every right to be there. If you're going to throw an Israel Day parade, you shouldn't throw an Israel Day parade, and you certainly shouldn't participate in the Israel parade if you don't want to be caught next to war criminals.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.